So it says here that we tend to believe that we know what middle class means. And after all, it seems easy enough to define it if we only consider income. But being a part of the middle class is more complicated than it may seem at first. Factors like location and debt also play a role. For example, a person who makes $40,000 per year may be middle class in a small rural town, but the same income in a large coastal city would be well below the median income. Thus, a better way to think about the middle class is to consider how much people need to get by, given all of these intersecting factors. Pew Research defines being middle class as making 75% and 200% of the median income. By looking at the median household income figures from the most recently available U.S. Census data, they found that just how much you need to earn to live comfortably in multiple major U.S. cities.
What does it mean by 75% and 200%? So
Pew Research defines being middle class as making 75% and 200% of the median income.
So that's confusing. So 75% of your I'm going to assume that 75% of your income should pay your bills, but you should make 200% of what your bills are in order to be considered middle class?
Well, I think it comes down to a range of the median income, and if you fall within the 75 to 200%, then you would be considered middle class. So if the median income was 100K and you made anywhere from 75K to 200, you would be considered middle class.
Okay, that makes sense.
And CNBC says that amid inflation, more middle-class Americans struggle to make ends meet. Now, this is reported January 18th, 2023. Many people still identify with being in the middle class, although that doesn't mean what it used to.
But is the middle class qualifications, are they changing with the same rate of inflation?
Well, I mean, the qualification comes down to the mathematics based on one particular method, which would be the 75 to 200%.
Okay.
So what changes is the median income.
Okay.
What changes is the median income and or how much you earn.
Okay.
And they're saying that inflation is largely to blame for middle class struggling. Mm-hmm. And even though middle class wage growth is high by historical standards, it isn't keeping up with the increased cost of living, which in December was up 6.5% from the prior year, making it harder to live the same lifestyle previous middle class generations did. Nearly 3/4 or 72% of middle income families say their earnings are falling behind the cost of living, up from 68% a year ago. And this is according to a separate report by Primerica based on a survey of households with incomes between $30,000 and $100,000. A similar share, 74%, said that they were unable to save for the future, and that was up from 66% a year ago.
Well, I mean, it makes sense. Inflation hits and things cost twice as much, right? But your employer, depending on who your employer is, will just say that their cost of whatever running their business has also increased. In order to pay you, the employees, more money, they then have to charge more money for the things that they are selling or doing or whatever else to be able to afford to pay you, therefore increasing inflation even more. And it's this like really shitty hamster wheel that we're all stuck on.
Well, yeah, I mean, especially since we are so far past the 2% annual CPI inflation rate.
Oh, yeah.
So it just makes the catch-up game much more difficult and way more aggressive. The middle class is shrinking, and economists' definitions of middle class vary, but the Pew Research Center defines middle class as those earning between 2/3 and twice the median American household income, which was $70,784 in 2021, according to Census Bureau data.
That's per household, not per person.
Yes.
Correct? Okay.
That means American households earning as little as $47,189 and up to $141,568 are technically included, although the median income is roughly 90 grand, 90K.
I was about to say, at 47,000, you're going to have a hard time being able to afford what we now do consider basic necessities. You've got people out there going, well, you don't need a cell phone. Well, yeah, you do. In this day and age, you need a cell phone. Well, you don't need a car. Well, in this day and age, you almost do. And then you have to have insurance for that car, or you can't have the car. You have to have money for gas, or there's no point in having the car. Like, there's so many things that go hand in hand that 47,000 starts to dwindle real quick.
Yeah, the 47, back in 2021 would put you at the lower end. That would be lower middle class versus upper middle class being 141,568. And it says that is often cited the share of adults who live in middle class households is shrinking. Now 50% of the population falls in this group as of 2021, down from 61% 50 years ago. Much different time from 50 years ago.
What do they mean shrinking? Read that for me one more time.
It says as is often cited the share of adults who live in middle class households is shrinking.
Okay. So that means there's either more that are out above middle class or more that are below middle class now is what they're saying.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah. And I think that because of the mathematical equation to determine middle class status, that's how the middle class is going to get wiped out mathematically.
Yeah.
Because if you think about keeping up with the Joneses, and the Joneses have all managed to increase their income and you haven't, they're going to raise the median income.
That's what I was going to say.
Which would then mathematically put you, if you were already at lower middle class, out
of middle class altogether. That makes sense. It sucks, but it makes sense.
Their share of the country's wealth is also getting smaller, while the top 1% can continue to amass more and more, according to several other studies.
So I saw this thing online one day. I don't remember where it was, and it was one of these things of give a poor person $5 and it'll be gone immediately. Give a educated or rich person, I don't remember how the stupid thing was phrased, $5 and they'll multiply it. And the response was, well, yeah, the poor person probably wants some fucking food. Like they want to eat, like they need to spend that $5. Whereas the one who's already rich has an extra $5 to fall back on. So it's easier for them to multiply their money because they have excess money sitting behind them that they can fall back on.
Well, I guess the question is, how do you stop being poor?
You have to have different ways of diversing your income, obviously, like more baskets, more eggs, more baskets. But that's the whole thing. If you've only got 5, how do you make 4 do everything you need it to do so you can invest that 1 or do something with 1?
It's like, how do you stop being poor or how do you start being rich? So let's just look at it from the standpoint of Ryan Trahan.
Okay.
And he traveled across the country on a penny. By working hard and trading up.
Yes.
Investing.
Yes.
Right? I've seen the trend happen a lot on YouTube and other social media platforms like TikTok and Instagram, Facebook, and even Gary Vee. Years ago, I was listening to Gary Vee 2015, 2016, 2017, and he was basically saying that, if you want to make it, you'll have to forego something. You'll have to forego something. What are we looking at?
I was making sure your thing was green to make sure you were being heard.
Oh, okay.
I couldn't see it. I wanted to make sure you were good.
We have to forego something. I'm on it. We have to forego something. So
for some people, they say, okay, I'm going to not rent an apartment or a house or whatever else. I'm going to move back in with my parents. I'm going to do something here and help them around the house instead of paying rent. I'll do things for them. I'll cook, I'll clean, I'll do whatever else. Save money, invest it.
If you think about it like this, let's just say, food for thought, devil's advocate here. If you give a poor person $5 and it's gone in no time, is it gone because they're hungry or is it gone because they're really bad with money?
Could be a 50-50.
Because if it's gone because they're bad with money, it doesn't matter how much money you give them, it's going to be gone.
That's true.
But if they're hungry, guess what? They've always been hungry. So don't eat. When you get the $5, don't eat. Make that $5 $10. Then eat.
Then eat.
On the $5.
Yeah.
Then make the next $5 $10. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah. But I think there's a lot of people out there who have the 5 and they turn it into 10 and then they spend the 10. Do you know what I mean? Like they get excited about the 10 and then
I think if people know how to do it, I don't think they spend the 10. I think if they know how to do it, they may spend 5, 6, 7, but they're not going to spend the 10.
Okay.
Because they know they got to have it to keep doing
to keep
it.
going. Okay.
Financial well-being is deteriorating overall. According to a recent Making Ends Meet report by the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, and across the board, households have been slow to adjust their spending habits. Even as prices rise significantly, consumer spending hasn't changed that much. To bridge the gap, Americans are dipping into their savings accounts and running up credit card balances. That leaves them more financially vulnerable in the event of an economic shock, which is where we are right now. It's an economic shock to those who are not prepared, really.
True.
As well as we just got out of an economic shock during the pandemic, because that was an economic shock to people getting an abundance of free money from unemployment insurance, unemployment boosts.
Can you really call it free when it's kind of biting us in the ass afterwards?
It was free at the time.
Okay.
It's like, it's like you could sign up for a free trial somewhere, but they still want your credit card.
And then if you forget to cancel it,
So
then
it
you're
was free at
charged.
some point.
Yeah.
But that was still an economic shock. We
Yeah.
can't look at the term economic shock and think it's only bad. It could have been good at the time where people were getting stimulus checks. They were getting paid more to sit on the couch at home, not go to work. PPPs and other CARES Act boosts to the economy. But even then, you can say that wasn't a good economic shock, because hindsight, it was probably a bad economic shock, but more so for the people who wasted that time. That's the big deal. Like, it's really odd. Like, you can compare it to going to prison, and the people who go to prison and waste the time come out worse off than they went in. Whereas some people they'll spend decades, use the time wisely, and come out better.
That phrase hindsight is 2020. I mean, it's there for a reason, because you can look back and see clearly where you have messed up or could have done better or whatever else. Whereas sometimes when you're in it, it's harder to see.
I remember, like, as it was starting, we decided not to go on that cruise. Actually, they decided.
Well,
weren't
we
gonna go.
decided and they decided for us
Yeah.
a couple days later.
And the Carnival cruise was canceled, and we literally just sat in the living room, and I said, "All right, where do you win?"
Yeah.
Because this is the beginning of a race. Now, how do you win this race? Funny, if you watch G.I. Justin, he'll say, if you chose toilet paper, you should have played the lottery. You missed it.
Yeah.
No one guessed toilet paper. But if you chose toilet paper, if you chose face mask, if you chose plexiglass, if you chose hand sanitizer, like there were some few options there that could have immediately put you in a position to win.
Yeah.
But actually, long term, was real estate, vehicles. Vehicles became appreciating assets, which was crazy.
Really crazy.
Stock market, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin was up crazy high. With economists now forecasting a possible recession, 62% of middle class or middle income households said that they need to get financially prepared. With economists now forecasting a possible recession, 62% of middle income households say that they need to get financially prepared. They're not there yet. I'll put the chart up so you guys can see it. These are the actions that middle income consumers will take to handle inflation, i.e. get prepared.
I bet one of them will be get more credit cards.
Let's see here. No.
It is one of them. They just probably didn't put it in the list. 'Cause that's what most people are going to do right now.
It is. There it is.
Yeah.
What's the number one?
Number one, decrease spending.
That's number. No.
Is number one sell assets?
Number one, you know what number one is.
Make more money?
Yeah. Work longer before retirement.
I was about to say, it's not make more money, it's work longer before retirement, which to me are not the same thing.
In theory, if you're going to try to survive inflation and a recession, then you have to make more money. You have to work longer. Either it's make money longer, which is making more in total, or taking on additional jobs to make more money.
There's a difference between working and making money, though.
Right, but let's
But
just
most
say-
people are going to look at it from, oh, I need to go
Oh,
get
yeah.
another physical job. I need to work more hours this week. I need to work for more years in my life, instead of looking at it as I need to make more money. There's a huge difference between the two.
Well, sort of, but if you're building a retirement savings, then you have to ultimately make more money to put into that. Mm-hmm. But the next one on the list is cut back and pause saving in an emergency fund.
Which is stupid.
And this is just to handle inflation. This is just to handle inflation.
So dumb.
Delay car repairs and maintenance, which we've already discussed, the dangerous.
Yeah. Also a horrible idea. I mean, the smoke detectors in our house, the batteries have died, but those are expensive now, so we're going to hold off on that. And then your goes up in flames. Like, there are certain things you need to do.
That's really silly, because you got to think, repairs and maintenance. Well, maintenance is an oil change and tire rotations and things like that. And it's like, you know,
You're putting your life at risk when you don't take care of the vehicle that's moving you from point A to point B.
you're putting everybody's life
Yeah.
at risk, but you're losing dollars by chasing pennies. It's like, I don't want to spend $60 on an oil change, but I do want to spend 12 grand on a new engine.
Yeah, when you blow that shit up.
Like,
No, all this white smoke coming out of the back of the car is normal. It's fine.
find a higher paying job. Okay, makes sense. Increase credit card use. And this is just to handle inflation. Tap into retirement savings, cut back / pause retirement savings, cut back, pause student loan debt payments, cut back, pause credit card payments.
These are all horrible ideas. Side note.
Oddly enough, actions middle income consumers will take to handle inflation, 26% said none. I ain't doing shit.
You're like, it is what it is. I'm just going to write it out. But the not paying your debts is one of the worst ideas, unless you can get in writing from your credit card company, from somebody, that you can have a tack on to the end of your payments kind of thing. Get 30 days no payment, 60 days no payment, add it on to the end of your billing, whatever. But to just not do it, because unfortunately, unless you have money falling out your butt and can pay cash for everything, you do need your credit score. And to just let it crap itself because of inflation is a horrible idea.
I don't think you necessarily need your credit score.
What did we have to do just to get the apartment?
You like to have it. You don't
You-
necessarily need it.
You want to be able to afford things in the future, you need it.
Not necessarily. Like what?
An apartment, a house, they look at your
Buy
credit
cash.
score.
Buy cash.
That's what I said, unless you have cash falling out your butt. But if you do have cash falling out your butt, then you're not watching this video and caring about this, right?
Not necessarily. So think about it like this. Let's just say you've got 200 grand cash, but you also have $300,000 worth of debt that you can't pay.
Okay.
Do you want to spend 200 grand to pay down your debt to have 100 grand of debt left and no cash? Or do you want to keep your cash and then say, screw the debt, file bankruptcy, I still got 200 grand cash, I'll be fine, give me a few years, I'll be back in the game.
But don't they come after the cash in order to pay off the things that are out there?
Now we're getting into semantics of how your assets are structured as far as them being protected. Which, yes and no, depending on where that money is. Let's just not say cash. Let's just say in net worth.
Okay.
You know, or at least in the ability to produce cash flow.
Okay.
And it's like, do I want to spend all that do I want to get, use all of my resources to still be in debt and maintain a credit score? Or do I want to retain my resources, screw my credit score, and, file chapter 11, chapter 7, chapter 13, whatever it may be, give me a few years, I'll be back in the game.
What do you do for those few years?
You pay cash.
And when that runs out?
Cash flow. You got to have cash flow. Diversity, security, and cash flow.
You have to have all of that ahead of time, though. Because if you let your credit go to crap, it's not like you...
Credit doesn't produce cash flow. Not necessarily. It could, depending on how you use the credit and leverage it. But, I mean, it's a hypothetical scenario of...
I think it's going to come down to individual people on that one, honestly.
Businesses are doing it right now.
Yeah, Revlon did it.
I mean, there's a ton of bankruptcies, and there will be more. And
There was no Revlon on the shelves at Target and Walmart. Then they filed their Chapter 7 bankruptcy. I think it was Revlon. Chapter 7 bankruptcy. And then now the shelves are full of makeup.
I mean, they restructured the debt. They restructured the debt. So it's just like, okay, well, theoretically, we can restructure your debt to zero. Cool, great. There's a blemish on your record. Yeah, you still got a lot of money. You still have the ability to produce more. Cool. What's the problem here? Like,
Okay.
now, unfortunately, I think it's only going to get worse, according to Ted Jenkins, CEO at Atlanta-based Oxygen Financial, and a member of CNBC's Advisory Council, who said on Americans' financial standing, hope for the American dream is at an all-time low, especially among the middle class, according to the latest Gallup poll, which tracks Americans' assessments of the next generation's likelihood of surpassing their parents' living standards.
What do they mean by living standards?
I can't tell you exactly what they mean by living standards, but I would assume it means like where they live or how expensive it is to live where they live, or, you know, the cars they drive or the vacations they take or anything like that. Those are the living standards.
I was about to say, because I think the standards have significantly changed from, I don't know, the 40s and 50s to now.
I mean,
It used to be, I'd like to have a place to live and a family and a picket fence. And now it's, I'd like to have this car, that vacation home, these gadgets.
I mean, it's changed because of evolution, technology,
Yeah.
business. They got what they were able to get. And then as more became available to have, more people went to go get it.
Yeah.
And then the banks got behind it to allow the financing of it. And, you know,
Yep.
now 59% of middle income Americans, or those making between 40K and 100K, according to Gallup, said it is very or somewhat unlikely that today's young adults will have a better life than their parents, compared to only 48% of those with annual household incomes under 40K who feel that way. Wow. So there's very few people who are below middle class that have aspirations of success in achieving financial success, whereas those who are in the middle class feel as though that they are probably going to fall lower.
So this is not part of this topic, but it is important to me that the people who are considered below middle class generally, I don't want to say generally, a lot of the time they are people who don't have anybody telling them they can do better. They haven't been shown that they can do better. They haven't grown up in areas or households where better has been done. So it's not, they can't see it because it's never been shown to them or they've been told that they could do it.
Well, I think you're right, and I also think that they can see it because they can see the Kardashians. They just don't understand it because it's not presented in a way where it's like, you can do this.
Don't ever use the
But
Kardashians
if
as an
you-
example of how you can be something.
It's not them. It's social media. If
Yeah.
you look at these people that you see, it's obviously possible.
Yes.
Whereas, you know, you can't say like, oh man, look at these pro athletes. Well, they're continuously every year become more pro athletes because at some point a kid somewhere was like, I can do that because they see it.
Yeah.
You got to go for it.
But it also costs a lot of money to go for it. So even those things come into play.
Sure, it does. A lot of things cost a lot of money, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to spend that money.
True.
Free rides, full scholarship. Like,
True.
the opportunities are out there. Now, I will say, though, that there are opportunities out there and people trying to present the information to help people achieve financial success and improve their financial situations greater than their parents. But even with TikTok and YouTube and a lot of videos, either they're not painting the full picture or people are just super skeptical and they don't even try.
I would say a little bit of both, but I do believe that the whole not painting the full picture or not painting a real clear picture is huge when it comes to social media stuff.
I saw somebody the other day, it might have been TikTok, and he was showing how to make a lot of money doing something online. I don't remember exactly what it was because I didn't care. But the problem was he only said how much he could make, which was a considerable amount of money. But he didn't discuss how much profit he made.
And that's the difference.
You know, there's companies
It's like I made $500,000 last year. Cool. You spent 750 to make that 500.
There's companies now that operate on a deficit. They're not profitable, and they turn crazy revenues. But it's like people don't get the full picture. People don't have, nor do they want to seek the financial education. And
sometimes it's easier to complain than it is to do something about it.
amid inflation, you really have to get disciplined. According to this article, as middle income families prepare for a possible recession this year, it's more vital than ever that they take control of their personal finances by addressing debt, setting up a budget, and keeping spending in check. This is according to Glenn Williams, Primerica's CEO. Experts often recommend starting with high interest credit card debt. Credit card rates in particular are now more than 19% on average, an all-time record. Those annual percentage rates will keep climbing too as the Federal Reserve continues raising its benchmark rate. And it says here that you really have to get disciplined or you're going to outspend your income. And if you currently have credit card debt, tap a lower interest personal loan or 0% balance transfer card and refrain from putting additional purchases on credit unless you can pay the balance in full at the end of the month and even set some money aside. Yeah, so sometimes when people get access to a balance transfer or anything like that, then that card becomes available again and they use it again.
Which defeats the entire purpose of the balance transfer.
Now to curtail your spending, Jenkins said some simple financial hacks can help, such as going to the grocery store less and cutting back on online shopping, which is interesting because a lot of businesses are pushing for more online shopping.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would say don't go grocery shopping while you're hungry. That's my number one, because I have a tendency to do that, and that's when I realize I will overspend.
I like how the online shopping gets you, and it's like, well, if you spend this much, you'll get free shipping. You're like, well, shit. But they've strategically priced every item to make you overspend just to hit the mark. But then you're like, well, I don't want to waste money on shipping when I can get a product.
You know what happens? I'll get online for something and then I'll just start looking at stuff and I'll keep adding it to the cart. And then I'll go to the cart and I'll be like, oh, ma'am, no. And I'll just close the whole thing out and go away. I'll be like, nope, you got a little overboard. You got carried away. Walk away.
Grocery stores are just like Las Vegas. They are there to separate you from your wallet. Meal planning is one way to edit down your shopping list to weekly essentials and save money. Disabling one-click ordering or deleting stored credit card information can also help. Anyone that shops on Amazon and has a stored credit card, you are basically pouring lighter fluid on your budget. Jenkins recommends waiting 24 hours before making an online purchase and then using a price tracking browser extension such as Camel, or Keepa to find the best price. I never even heard of those.
Me either.
Finally, tap a savings tool like Cently, which automatically applies a coupon code to your online order and pay with a cashback card, such as Citi Double Cash Card, which you'll earn 2%. So with Camel, and Keepa and Cently, I'm gonna look and see if I can find links. I'll put them in the description. But here's where the rubber meets the road, basically, as we're on the brink of this recession and economic collapse for the middle class.
Wouldn't you then consider this a complete wipeout for the lower class? If this is
They were already wiped out. They weren't even in the game. They weren't even in the game. I got a video, I'm gonna put it up later, but it breaks down the term affordability and what it means now versus what it used to mean, and it does not mean the same thing anymore. Affordability is taking on a whole new definition.
Probably not a good one either.
No, well, I mean, not really, unless you, honestly, folks.
This all just sucks.
Well, no, like, really, I said this like 3 years ago. No matter what, all you can do is make more money.
You've always said that. That has always been a thing.
That's it. No matter what. San Francisco, this is where median household income numbers, okay? San Francisco is the median household income is $121,826. So, if you want to be considered middle class in San Francisco, you have to earn between $81,209 all the way up to $243,652, which is kind of crazy. It's like, I make 81 grand a year. I live in San Francisco, and you consider yourself middle class, but then somebody makes almost three times more than that, and they consider themselves middle class too. And these numbers are higher than the middle class income for most cities. And in fact, the median income for San Francisco is the highest in the nation among the top 25 most populated cities. So my opinion is if you're broke and you don't make a lot of money, don't
move to San Francisco. Well, it's also because San Fran, they charge a lot for everything and they pay a lot for everything. So it's like, yeah, you have a high median, but it's still probably not going to afford you the things that you need.
I'd be really interested to see, and for somebody to explain to me why the hell you would want to live in San Francisco.
We went through there and it was a shithole, and I mean that nicely. I'm sure it would have been great, but the entire area, like, we were like, okay, let's go, we're done. As soon as you see dudes just sitting on a sidewalk with their pants around their ankles, just scooting their butt across the concrete, you're done.
I'd really love for somebody to explain to me why you would want to live in San Francisco. Seattle, Washington. Median household income is $110,781. So you'd have to be between $73,847 to $221,562 to be considered middle class. Seattle has the second highest median income.
And probably the highest homeless drug population that I've ever seen in my life.
I can't believe that Washington, D.C. is $90,088 for median. Well, I
It's
guess
Washington.
I can't believe
It's
that.
it's politicians that live
I
there.
can believe that, but man, Washington, D.C. is so expensive.
Oh, yeah.
The nation's capital has the third highest median household income among major U.S. cities. So that's crazy. It has the third highest median income, but it's one of the most expensive places.
Well, that's why it has the third highest median income, because it is so expensive. You have to look at it that way. The most expensive cities are going to have the highest median incomes because they're going to have to be able to pay more, to be able to spend more to keep the city running.
Denver, Colorado, median household income is $81,630. So if you want to be middle class, you're between $54,415 and $163,260. I mean, without even knowing these city names, I would say that I think generally when I speak about middle class, I'll say a single earner is like 150 is middle class.
A single earner person,
Yeah.
not a household. They're not talking per person though.
Yeah, they're talking households.
Uh-huh.
But I was like, without looking at these cities, I'm saying 150 would put you right there.
Uh-huh.
Because you can see that, Denver, you got this range, but even like San Francisco went up to 240.
Yeah.
So I'm just saying like a blanket statement.
Okay.
It's like if you're 150, like anywhere in the country, 150.
You're gravy. You're good. And depending on where you are, you're a king. And depending on where you are, you're like barely a foot in the court. It just kind of depends.
If you spend too much.
That's true.
So Austin, Texas, median household is $79,542, and Boston $79,283.
I bet they have cheap beer in Boston because that's what
So,
they're known for, and baked beans.
You go to a Sox game, go Sox. So yeah, middle class in Boston is between $52,850 and $158,566. So this is the new middle class, folks. This is a problem.
Yeah.
And a lot of, based on these reports and these surveys, Americans are worried about inflation and worried about a recession and feel as though that they need to prepare for it. But honestly, it doesn't look like there's a huge push in the right direction of great preparation.
Here's the problem. If you know you're going to the swimming pool in a month, you're going to go to a swimming pool or the beach in a month, why would you wait until the first time you're in the water to learn how to swim? You would want to plan ahead, learn how to swim before you ever touch water, correct? So it's the same thing here. If you want to be able to withstand inflations, recessions, whatever else, you have to plan ahead. Like, you have to constantly be trying to find ways to earn more money.
No, you're absolutely right. But a lot of people procrastinate and they don't plan properly and they don't execute, and they'll find themselves in the deep end of the pool, potentially likely to drown, or a grown-ass adult standing in 3.5 feet of water looking like, what's going on here? The kiddie pool section.